Welcome back to Bay Area Housewife of True Crime. We are at part 4 of the Tina Faelz case. As a reminder, topics may be triggering. Viewer and listener discretion is strongly advised. The people mentioned are innocent until proven guilty in court. Creepy Carlson started his 1984 sophomore year at Foothill High School when he was almost 17 years old, drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana daily. He started dabbling in crank and acid at this time as well. He got his picture taken but did not finish the semester. After the murder, he failed more classes, and according to the principal at Foothill High during that time, he became more, quote, visible to the faculty and the students after the stabbing. He got suspended and then went to Village High, an alternative high school. He became a meth head, and everyone suspected that he was involved in the murder. He would joke about it. He would even joke about going to 7-Eleven and saying hello to Tina's mom. People said he would show up at parties without an invitation and brag about murdering Tina. He joked about killing Tina because she refused to do his homework, and though he admitted this to the police when they interviewed him at Juvenile Hall in January of 1986, it was not enough to arrest him. When Creepy Carlson got kicked out of his house, Al Guzman let him stay at his house. Yes, the same Al Guzman that this lovingly man would call Beaner. Al's dad was a cop, and Creepy Carlson stole his dad's pistol, which is terrifying to say the least. On November 4th, 1986, Creepy Carlson was still roaming the Bay Area. He got cited in Walnut Creek for failing to stop at a stop sign and failure to have his registration paperwork on him. Around this time, Creepy Carlson dropped out of high school entirely and went to live with his grandmother in Davis. In 1988, 20-year-old Carlson met King High School senior Justine Hamilton, who was born in Alaska to a drug-addicted mother. Justine was adopted. In 1989, Creepy Carlson bought teens alcohol. He met two 13-year-old girls that were enticed by his pit bull. Then they went to the UC Davis dorms. 22-year-old Steve Carlson tried to rape a 13-year-old girl. The victim's parents filed criminal charges against him, and for this crime, he was charged for lewd and lascivious acts with a minor and was sentenced to 3 years at the California Correctional Facility in Vacaville, where he did time between May 29, 1990 through April 29, 1992. When released, he was required to register as a sex offender. On October of 1992, Justine became pregnant. She had 2 previous abortions, but this time their daughter was born on June 15, 1993. He was abusive to Justine, and she filed for divorce, and it was finalized in 1996. In order to get rid of him and his abuse, she called his parole officer and reported he had violated his terms of his parole. In August of 1996, John and Sandra Carlson sold their home on Lemonwood Way for $285,000 and moved to Garnerville, Nevada. Steve Carlson contracted hepatitis C from his drug use. He didn't register as a sex offender, even though he had to when he was out of jail. He wanted to drink himself to death, but trips to jail got him medical attention and forced sobriety. As soon as Sarah Whitmire turned 18, she started dating Steve Carlson. She was a neighbor in Davis. They were homeless. He dated other women, including a stripper who ended up in prison. He took Whitmire to Pleasanton. He took Sarah Whitmire to Pleasanton and showed her where he killed Tina on several occasions. In May of 1996, 3 months after she had turned 18 and officially started dating Carlson, Sarah got pregnant and she quit drugs cold turkey. She was pregnant and homeless. She went into labor in a homeless shelter. A stranger called a taxi to take her to the hospital. On the same day she turned 19 years old, on February 21st, 1997, she gave birth to a boy. Steve Carlson was 29. He was present but stole a camera she had taken pictures of her newborn son with and sold them for drugs. She was in the hospital for 4 days due to complications after the birth. Not only does she have no pictures of the birth of her son, but no one came to see her during this time. They house hopped until they were able to get an apartment. Steve Carlson moved in. When the baby was 6 months old, Sarah found a bag of meth on her kitchen floor that belonged to Steve Carlson, and she kicked him out. By the millennium, Steve Carlson had been a junkie for 16 years and didn't have a regular job. On May 19, 2004, he was arrested for failure to register as a sex offender. In April of 2005, he was sentenced to an additional 32 months in prison. On September 26, 2007, Justine Hamilton passed away at Kaiser after a long illness with liver disease. She received a liver transplant in 2004, but was never able to manage the side effects and restrictions people with liver transplants have to undergo. Steve Carlson got the news of his ex passing while he was in prison when he got a letter advising him that their daughter was now in the legal guardianship of her grandmother. The 11-year-old daughter he had never known went to therapy to talk about her abandonment issues. She wrote letters to him and burned them. On January 1st, 2008, he was released after another 32 months in prison on a parole violation. 3 days later, on January 4th, 2008, he was arrested again on a domestic violence charge and was sentenced to another 4 months in prison. On May 8th, 2008, he was released and went to Santa Cruz. He was homeless and living in the transient community under bridges and tents, doing God knows what. In 2010, Todd Smith went on a day trip to Santa Cruz. They were on the boardwalk when a homeless person tapped on his shoulder. It was Steve Carlson. He was almost unrecognizable. Creepy Carlson was proud of being in prison for raping a minor. He ran into him again a couple of months later.